I'm 30 years old, and I'm going to be sharing some of the lessons that I've learned over the years that I feel could be of value to anyone who's listening today. The first one starts with intentionality. Being intentional means that you are doing actions in accordance to your set of principles, values, or just in a sense, in accordance to what you want to do in the day to day. Sometimes we don't do things intentionally. We just do things unconsciously. We do things because someone told us to do it. We do it because we don't have any other choice, or we do it because, well, we just don't think about it. And I think that's something I learned personally through my journey because when I started taking actions more intentionally, I started seeing things align in accordance to what I truly value. Something that I really value is just the aspect of hearing other people's stories, mental health, mental well being. Those are some things that I really value. I started putting myself into positions where I was in alignment with that. So a few years ago, I actually started working as a psych technician. I even volunteered with an organization and I started sharing my own journey through an organization called NAMI, which is the National Alliance of Mental Health. They had a project actually where you could share your mental health journey, your story to various schools and things of that sort. So I was able to go and share my story to, it started from 30 students and then it elevated all the way up to 500 students, varied from elementary to high school. This is something that else that I really find of value is that alongside intentionality, it's the idea of going outside your comfort zone so that you can grow. Because while I share that example, something else I didn't share is that prior to doing that, I had a somewhat fear of public speaking. It's something that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to present myself and go outside to share my story, but I also hadn't done it. I wasn't sure how it would end up being. But it's ultimately when you start just doing it without thinking it through that we certainly gain the traction that we desire. We sometimes ruminate too often. We think about all these different thoughts, ideas, what's going to happen, what are the people going to think about me, what if I mess up? And these are all natural, honestly. But the thing is, when you just act before you're even ready to do so, you start opening so many doors that you never thought were possible. I started feeling more confidence as I started giving more speeches. From the first one, I started out with 10, as I said, and then all the way up to 500. Walking into that crowd, it was in a high school gym, I remember actually, now that I think about it. I remember staring at all the seats. It was completely packed. There was actually another speaker alongside me as well. But it was just crazy to think that I was actually going to present my story and be vulnerable in a sense to all of these people. But I was able to do it and I actually felt better for it. I think that's what's amazing about this. The next thing I go with alongside intentionality and going outside your comfort zone, another example that I can provide is the idea of just doing things that you've always wanted to do, but you weren't sure that you should do. So, an example for me was I actually took a trip to Croatia when I was in med school. During my summer, I actually went on my own. It's something I've always wanted to do. I've wanted to travel on my own to meet different cultures, to push myself individually, and just see different people that I may have not met, experiences I may have not seen. I think it's just an amazing experience when you travel on your own because you realize so much more about yourself through that journey. It's like a self-discovery type of process in a sense. And it was amazing because I lived in a hostel and I met so many great people from all over the world. People I may have not otherwise, and we all shared experiences together. We went on all these excursions. We also volunteered together. We worked in a clinic where we helped people who struggle with autism. So it was a noble venture together that we all did, and it was amazing to hear different people's stories, different people's perspectives. We played games, and it was really just a cool experience. And I myself was able to push myself in the sense that I was able to learn on my own. I learned how traveling in a different country that I was not accustomed to was like, learning different people's culture. Just even when I was in a Uber, or just I would always find myself talking to the Uber driver, asking him what his story was, what his life experiences were, and we just shared common values in that sense. It was really cool just understanding each other in that sense. And I think these are things that I truly remember looking back. And I think when I did finally make that decision to go on my own, it's when I realized that that was the right decision to make, going back. I know a lot of people sometimes struggle with the idea of traveling on their own. But another thing is, I can even provide this possible challenge to y'all. I know a lot of people may not want to even travel on their own, but a smaller challenge is maybe go out to a restaurant and eat on your own. Because the thing is, when you eat on your own, it's basically allowing you to not allow the opinions of others to dictate who you are. When you eat on your own, you may think, oh, what other people going to think about me? I'm all by myself. They may think I'm a loser, or I may not have any friends, or stuff like that. But the reality is that no one's really thinking about you in that manner. People are, if you look up, you'll realize that people are in their own world. So it's your own ideas and judgments of yourself that's ultimately creating this persona of yourself and persona of the environment you're in. And what's really cool is that when you do ultimately eat by yourself, you'll realize that it really isn't as bad as you thought it was. This is something that I found myself being beneficial because I've done it myself as well at times. The final thing is that I think that a lot of us find it hard to disappoint other people. We think that we have to please other people, we have to walk according to what other people say. And yes, there are times where you want to listen to other people, as they may have good intentions for you and they may have good values to provide for you, good perspectives as well. But the thing is that sometimes you have to walk your own path in life. And when that happens, you may have to let people down. You may have to say no. And saying no is very hard. And I know for myself it was as well. But sometimes you have to let people down to grow and become the person that you want to be and do the things you want to do. Something that really allowed me to gain a better idea of this is something that I heard from another video that I actually watched. It was the idea that whenever you say no to something else, you're saying yes to something that you want to do. So that's a really good way to think about it, because every time you say no, you're not really denying an experience, but you're allowing an experience in a sense. You're allowing that experience for yourself that you may have not otherwise experienced. And that's really powerful to think about. Because for myself, starting to say no to things was difficult in the beginning, but over time, as you start saying no to some things, you start opening doors for things that you may have not been able to do. Like, let's say you always wanted to volunteer, you always wanted to travel, you always wanted to do whatever it may be, but you had certain things you had to do. The thing is that sometimes by saying no, it may be hard to hear from the other persons, but it allows you to gain those experiences for yourself. And there's always a balance, like I say. Sometimes there may be times that it may be not feasible, but it's just small steps in that direction of saying no. And that's something that helped me a lot in my own life. So these are some things over time that I've personally realized for myself, being 30, currently 30 as as I record this video. and just perspective that I gained over time that have helped me gain the proper perspective in life. And I just find myself continuing to grow over time as well. So these things may change. I hope this provides you some insight as well. And please, if you can, subscribe to the channel as it can help me make future videos, and share this video to whoever may need it as well. Thanks.